The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Happy morning to my dear students. I hope you all are very active, because right from the past 2 days you all are getting up early. That is, some of you are sending the message even at 5 o'clock, 5:30. I hope you don't just send the message and go to sleep, because many of you can send a thumbs up or wake up call and then back to sleep. Don't do that, children. Don't try to make the teacher happy and later you do the same thing. Purpose of making you getting up early is to give you more and more energy. Because as we have studied, it says that the most important time in a day lies in the morning. That's why we say days are long, nights are small. Just because you sleep and you spend most of the time being inactive. But when you get up early in the morning, you try to be energetic, do some important things that you can do in your daily routine. Make yourself the habit of maybe reading newspapers, doing physical exercises, or spending wisely, like watering the plants. Because when you get up early, our system gets into a good metabolism. You try to have proper breakfast, you try to have proper meals at regular intervals. If you get up late, what happens? The whole schedule actually gets disturbed. You try to skip your breakfast, you try to have lunch at around 2 o'clock or maybe 11 o'clock, early lunch, or you miss the proper food timings. That is again affecting your health. So when the body gets affected, our mind also gets affected, because we try to get angry or we try to become very much depressed, we become more emotional. It's all because of improper food habits. That improper food habits or unhealthy food habits, it is just caused because you get up late. When you have school, we all used to get up early, try to do our basic things, get up, take up a line bus and come to school. But now situation is favoring us that we have a whole day in front of us. So we feel so lethargic and we don't try to use the time wisely. But past is history. Now my children are so good that they will get up early in the morning, they'll help their parents, they'll do watering the plants, you'll do physical activities, you will make the day more and more productive. And here I want to share a very important thing. Our class Juliana has started an orchid plantation, right? Children at this age will be getting involved into electronic gadgets, but Juliana and her siblings, a brother and sister, has made a very productive work of growing plants, indoor plants. She has gifted one to our school. Very effective way of spending time. It's not a comparison, it is just learning from others. You will be having so many unique things that you can make your friends learn from that. Because when somebody is saying that at this point of time we have to get involved into gadgets, you prove that it is not necessary. That you will be using the gadgets only if there is a need for that. Yes, children. So I want my children to spend your time more effectively. Don't spend 90% of your time in gadgets. Rather, use your time productively to make yourself more and more productive. Okay. So now we'll get back into today's class. We were discussing about chemical bonding and we were also looking into Lewis concept, right? Clausius-Lewis concept. So now we are going to learn today about ionic or electrovalent bond. How this bond is formed, we'll be learning about few parameters which helps the bond formation much and more effective. So when I am going to come across this ionic or electrovalent bond, we have learnt in our lower classes that ionic bond is purely formed because of the transfer of electrons. That is, when an element loses an electron, it becomes a positive ion, which we call it as a cation, and an element which accepts that electron becomes a negative ion, that is an anion. So the arrangement of positive and negative ions in the solid, that is in a crystalline compound, we have a lattice. So that arrangement of alternate positive and negative ions in the solid will make an ionic or covalent. It depends on how these arrangements are happening. Now let's take an example. Now this is my element in its gaseous atom. When it loses an electron, it becomes a positive ion, that is a cation. Now that energy you call it as ionization energy. Ionization energy is the amount of energy required to remove the loosely bounded electron from an isolated gaseous atom. So this is my isolated gaseous atom M in its gaseous form. Some energy is being absorbed to remove this electron and you get a cation here. Now let's take an element which is in the gaseous form again, which will accept the electron and becomes an anion. So that we call it as electron gain enthalpy. So electron gain enthalpy is the energy required to accept an electron and form an anion. So when this M plus and X minus combines, you get Mx, which is a solid. That is how an ionic bond is formed. Such a compound we call it as ionic compound. Now electron gain enthalpy. Now that process involved, it can be endothermic or it can be exothermic. As we have already studied, there can be amount of energy which is being absorbed or there can be some amount of energy which is being released. So when it is being released, we call it as exothermic, which will be negative, and we have endothermic where amount of heat energy is absorbed, so that becomes a positive electron gain enthalpy. But when we see ionization energy, 90% they are endothermic, which means they absorb energy to remove the electron. Now ionic bonds are formed only with the elements which have low ionization energy and a very high negative electron gain enthalpy. At that point of time only these ionic bonds are possible. So we know the cations are formed with the loss of electron. Such a cation which is formed with the loss of electron will be from the metallic elements. Now metals are placed at the left extreme of the periodic table. So the first and second group are alkali metals and alkaline earth metals. So these two groups, when they lose electron, they become cations. Similarly, when I say anions, they are the right extreme of the periodic table except for the noble gases. So like 16th and 17th group elements, almost they gain electrons to become anions. So that's how these cations and anions are formed by the loss and gain of electron, and they get into a formation of an ionic bond. But when we take example of ammonium ion, ammonium ion is a combination of two non-metals, and that is acting as a cation for most of the compounds like ammonium chloride, ammonium hydroxide, ammonium carbonate. So these are the combinations where ammonium itself, which is a combination of two non-metallic elements, will be acting as a cation for the whole compound. Now we will get into the crystal lattice and then we'll learn about lattice enthalpy and bond parameters. Now let's learn about lattice enthalpy. See, this is a crystal lattice where you can see all the corners are being occupied by the cation and the anion. Cation, as we know, will be smaller in size once it loses its electron. Anion will gain one more electron, so the size will become more. So the energy required to separate 1 mole of a solid ionic compound into its gaseous ion. When I say 1 mole of a compound, it's nothing but example sodium chloride. It gets separated into excuse me children, Na plus and Cl minus. So these are its gaseous constituent ions of a compound sodium chloride. Now what are the forces that are responsible for this lattice enthalpy are: 1, it can be an attractive force between the opposite charges like Na plus and Cl minus. The second one, it can be a repulsive force which is acting between the like charges, that is between 2 Na plus ion or 2 Cl minus ion. So these are the situations where lattice enthalpy is being required or it is being formed. Now the overall lattice enthalpy gets stabilized because of this ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy. So if these two are not that huge amount, but the lattice enthalpy of the formation of NaCl or by the dissociation of NaCl will be different with that of the sum of the combination of ionization and electron gain enthalpy. Now there are few parameters which helps us to find out the lattice enthalpy or stability of a compound. The first one is bond length. Equilibrium distance between the nuclei of two bonded atoms. This is my atom A, this is my atom B, the center is my nucleus. The equilibrium distance, what do you mean by equilibrium distance? The same distance between the center of these two nuclei will be giving me the bond length. But what is covalent radius? Covalent radius will be for the whole atom with the center of the nuclei of a covalent bond atom. But van der Waals radius is the overall radius including the valence shell. That is even the outermost shell is being taken from the outermost shell till the nucleus. That radius we call it as a van der Waals radius, and that is for a non-bonded atom where two atoms are not being bonded. Now we have few more parameters which we will be learning now. Now learn about bond angle, the next parameter. Angle between the orbitals of a bonded electron pairs around the central atom. This is my central atom. I have two hydrogen atoms which is getting bonded with oxygen. So there is a bonding between hydrogen oxygen and oxygen hydrogen. Now that angle formed around the central atom which has got an electron pairs around it is called as bond angle. Here you can see it as a bent structure with 104.5 degree where the unit will be mentioned in degrees. Bond enthalpy, energy required to break 1 mole of a bond. 1 mole of a bond when it is broken into its atom in its gaseous form, we call it as bond enthalpy. The unit is expressed in kilojoules per mole. Let's take an example where hydrogen H2 will be dissociated into two hydrogen atoms where the energy required for breaking that bond is 435.8 kilojoule per mole. The same thing when you take oxygen where for hydrogen it is hydrogen-hydrogen single bond, but here in case of oxygen it is oxygen-oxygen double bond where the energy is 498 kilojoule per mole. Now let's take another example where we have nitrogen with triple bond N where the energy is again has got a hike of 946.0 kilojoule per mole. So when you see this hydrogen-hydrogen single bond, oxygen-oxygen double bond, nitrogen-nitrogen triple bond, as the number of bond increases between the atoms, the bond enthalpy also increases. So larger the bond dissociation enthalpy, stronger will be the bond formed. So whenever the bond dissociation enthalpy increases, What is dissociation? Breaking up of the bond. What is association? Formation of the bond. So when more energy is required to remove or to break the bond will be more stronger. So in the case of triple bond, we know it is 946. So definitely stronger will be the bond between the nitrogen. In case of heteronuclear and polyatomic atoms or compounds, the bond dissociation enthalpy is again different. If you take HCl, it is hydrogen plus chlorine, right? But when you take water, it's a two-step formation where when you have 2-3 steps formed, you can calculate the bond dissociation by taking the mean of all the energies and divided by the number of steps involved in the reaction. If 3 reactions are there, sum all the bond dissociation divided by 3. If there are only 2 steps, take the sum of it divided by 2. So you get the bond dissociation mean. So that is how the bond enthalpy is being calculated. Now we have bond order and then we will get back into resonance structure. Yes, now we will learn about bond order. Bond order refers to the number of bonds between the 2 atoms in a molecule. When I take 2 atoms here, X and X, how many bonds are present between any 2 atoms? It can be 1 bond, it can be 2 bonds, or it can be 3 bonds. If an atom, if 2 atoms they share 1 electron pair, it is a single bond. If it shares 2 electron pairs, it is a double bond, and if it shares 3 electron pairs, it becomes a triple bond. Isoelectronic species have got identical bond orders because we know what are isoelectronic species. The number of electrons remains the same. If take an example, F2 fluorine atom and O2 minus have 1 bond order, that is they have 1 bond. N2, CO and NO plus have got 3 as a bond order. So with increase in bond order, there will be an increase in bond enthalpy and there will be a decrease in the bond length which stabilizes the molecule. So the bond order increases, bond enthalpy increases, but the bond length decreases. That is how the molecule gets stabilized. Now if you come to the next important topic, resonance. What is resonance? There are 2-3 ways of expressing a particular structure. One single structure can be represented in 2-3 forms, which we call it as canonical forms. Let's take an example, ozone O3, where structure 1 is also ozone, structure 2 is also ozone. But this is hypothetical. What is hypothetical means? Confusing. I cannot make sure or I cannot confirm that this is the structure of O3 molecule. So if there are 2 or 3 ways of representing a structure, then we will be using a double-headed arrow which shows that structure 1 is in resonance with structure 2. If you see structure 1, I have oxygen atoms 3. There is a 1 lone pair of electrons here, 3 lone pair of electrons, and here 2 lone pair of electrons. Now tell me, what is the valency of oxygen? It is 6. So with 6 electron pairs, I should draw 1, 2 is here, 3 is here, which has got here already, 4, 5, 6, right? So here 6, that is with 8, it should be 2, 6 electron. So it is already gone here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for this one. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And for this oxygen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Total 8, 8, 8. Octet configuration, because we know one bond represents 1 electron pair. So my first oxygen will have 1, 2 electrons here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is done. So the same is here, but the double bond, instead of here between these 2 oxygen, it has come in between the first 2 oxygens. But now I am writing the third structure, which we call it as a resonance hybrid, which is can be that the double bond is fluctuating. It can be either between these 2 oxygen or can be between these 2 oxygen. It is not confirmed where it can be present. Such a structure which call it as resonance hybrid. So you can write in either way, the structure is correct. Now what is the use of resonance structure? It stabilizes the molecule. Now how does it stabilizes? Because when I see individually the energy of this canonical forms, it is very high. But when I see the resonance energy, that is the hybrid structures energy, it is less as compared to these two structures. That is how it is making the molecule much more stabilized. There are some misconceptions which are given here, that is canonical forms have no real existence. The molecule does not exist for certain fraction of time in one form, it just keeps on changing, or there is no equilibrium between. So these are the misconception, just have to go through that. Okay children. And what you need to do is, in the pink box they have given the structure of carbonate, CO3 2 minus. Please read the paragraph and try to do the structure so that you understand much better. Now we will learn about polarity of bonds. Let us learn about polarity of bonds. Now what do you mean by polarity? We have been coming across the word polar, non-polar. See, we know ionic bond is formed by the transfer of electrons and covalent bond is formed by the sharing of electrons. Now when a covalent bond between homo atoms, that is homonuclear atoms, two similar atoms, the electrons are shared equally, like between H2, Cl2, F2, electrons are shared by each atom. Such a bond is between the homonuclear, which is, or homo atoms, which are the covalent bond formation, and those are called as non-polar covalent bond. Now when you come to heteronuclear molecule like HF, H2O or HCl, the electron pair will be attracted towards the more electronegative atom. So I know when there is a hydrogen and fluorine, definitely fluorine is more electronegative, so it tends to pull the electron towards itself. So when I have hydrogen and chlorine, chlorine tends to attract the electron pair towards itself, being more electronegative. Such a bond formation we call it as polar covalent bond. When polar covalent bond is formed, there is a small polarization taking place in the molecule, which results in the formation of dipole moment. Now dipole moment is represented by the symbol mu is equal to the charge, which is the Q, that is charge into the distance of separation. How much is the two heteronuclear bond get separated, that distance will be given as R. So we know 1D, which is the dipole moment, 1D is equal to 3.33564 into 10 power minus 30 cm, where C is the unit of charge, coulombs, and M is the distance, that is meter. And we also know that dipole moment is a vector quantity, shows both magnitude and direction, and it is represented using the symbol, a line with a headed arrow and a small charge here with a plus. So when I have HF, the bond actually gets shifted towards the fluorine. From this end, it gets shifted to fluorine. This dipole moment, or I say polarization, also depends on the spatial arrangements of atom. How these molecules, that is atoms in a molecule, are arranged spatially. So if you take water molecule, hydrogen being electropositive, oxygen more electronegative, electron gets shifted towards the oxygen, get attracted, and that is how the resultant dipole moment is getting. When you have BeF2, both the side the electrons are attracted towards the fluorine end. But this question, the difference between NH3 and NF3 is a quite common question in your board exam. You can see almost in all your question papers. Now when I have ammonia, that is NH3, nitrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen with a lone pair of electrons on the top. Nitrogen being more electronegative than hydrogen attract the electron pair towards itself. So the resultant dipole moment will be towards nitrogen, goes on the top. But when you take an example of NF3, or when you compare ammonia with NF3, we have 3 fluorine atoms instead of hydrogen. Fluorine being more electronegative than nitrogen try to attract the electron pairs towards itself. So what happens there? The nitrogen electron pair, one present on the top, rest of the electron pair getting attracted towards fluorine. So there is a resultant dipole moment, a decrease in that. So it will be 0.80. But in case of NH3, it is 4.90. It's a very important question which often gets repeated in your question paper. So this is how the dipole moment actually is present between any two heteronuclear atoms. Now it has been it's been concluded from this that any covalent molecule will also have a partial ionic character. Now that is being informed to us by Fazan's rule. The Fazan's first rule says that the smaller the size of the cation and larger the size of the ation, greater the covalent character of an ionic bond. So we know what is an ionic bond. It is purely transfer of electrons, and cation after losing electrons, anion after gaining that electrons, an ionic bond is formed. So smaller its size, greater the ionic size, the covalent character will be present in the ionic bond. Second point, the greater the charge on the cation, the greater the covalent character of the ionic bond. What do you mean by greater charge? I have Na plus, Mg2 plus, Al3 plus, silicon 4 plus Si. So greater is the charge, more will be its covalent character. For cations of the same size and charge, the one with electronic configuration N-1 D0, Ns0, typical of a transition metals, is more polarizing than with Ns2 Np6. That is, when you have a transition element configuration with N-1 D, that is 3D becomes 0, 4s is also 0, till 3p6 will have more covalent character. The cation polarizes the anion, pulling the electronic charge towards itself and thereby increasing the electronic charge between the two. This is precisely what happens in a covalent bond, building up of electron density between the nuclei. We have two atoms and we have two nuclei. The electron density is just between these two nuclei. One is pulling the electron towards itself. The polarizing power of the cation, the polarizability of the anion, and the extent of polarization of the anion are the factors which determine the covalent character. How much the cation is giving the polarizing nature, electron towards the anion, how much is the extent of polarization, how much is the power of polarizability of the anion. All these factors are very, very important for the covalent character of an ionic bond. So I hope you understood today's class. Regarding structure of carbonate, if possible I will just work it and I will send it to you through the broadcast. So the next class we will be learning about VSEPR theory, valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. So whatever is being taken today, kindly mark it in your textbook as well, write the notes regularly and then make sure that you also go through the notes. Okay children, thank you, take care, bye.